Hi everybody, my name is Daniel. I'm from Serbia, and so pardon my English if I spell something incorrectly or anything. It's not my native language, and I this is going to be a very short review of a very special, particular lens that I had for the last 3 years, and lens that I'm selling today. So I kind of felt like I needed to do this short video about this lens because really there isn't much reviews on YouTube on this lens. This is a 50 millimeters f 1.2 lens that Nikon still makes today, and I am not gonna go into details about this lens because you can easily Google those. And as I said, this is still on production, and you can find all the details pretty easily on Google. But I wanted to just say a few words on this lens and why am I selling it, because there's so much praise on this lens on the internet, and you will read about how people are fascinated and all sorts of things. On one hand, this really is a special lens. What that means, it's if you're used to just using regular plastic G type lenses on your DSLR, such as let's say 50 millimeter 1.8 G that I had before this one, this is going to feel completely different. And what I say feel, this is a different lens. It's completely metal, glass, and this piece of rubber that you use for focus. So when you hold it in your hand, it almost feels like it's just a dense piece of metal or glass. And the quality wise, there's no doubt this will last for ages. This is something you can pass on to your children or grandchildren or whatever. But I am selling it, and the buyer is going to pick it up today. As I said, I had it for 3 years. So why am I selling it? Because I just could not possibly justify the hefty price of this lens and what it brings compared to a regular 50 millimeter 1.8 or 1.4. Uh, there was not much use for this lens for me. First of all, if why would you buy a lens like this if not for the large aperture, which is f1.2? So when you use a lens at this aperture, and I'm just gonna show you how enormous the hole through this lens is when you open it up, and this is lens on the back side. It will really, this is the fastest lens you can buy for a Nikon camera right now. And you may consider f2 lens to be fast, but this will let twice as much light. The fact is, you don't really need that. I've never felt like I needed f1.2. I bought it just to experiment. So you will never get yourself in a situation where you have that dim of illumination, that little of light, so that you will need f1.2, because you can easily raise the ISO. So get this thing out of the way. F1.2 for light gathering is obsolete. You just don't need it. So another thing is the blurred background of the bokeh, where it's called. Well, it's not really that much different from if you shoot, as I said, a lens that I had before, 1.8G, a fantastic lens, by the way, for the price. You can't beat it. Shoot these two lenses at wide open, f1.2 and f1.8, there is not much difference. So what's different is that this lens has such a shallow depth of field that you will just never get anything in focus. I mean, even for a still subject that I try to shoot, my son, he's a 2-year, there's just no way you can get a moving subject in focus. And even if you have a still subject, for example, if you shoot someone's portrait at a reasonable distance, like let's say 1.5 meters away, you will only wide open, you will only get uh, their eyes in focus, or maybe just the eyelashes, while the nose will be out of focus and the ears will be out of. So there I just couldn't find any use for this lens except for this aesthetic. It looks great on a camera, and it's an eye catcher. If you go outside with this lens, people will ask you, people that are into photography, they will stop you and ask you, yeah, what kind of lens is that, and that kind of stuff. But other than that, I just left it in my closet. It never got out, because I'm gonna show you the camera that I've been using it on. This is the D5500 with the fisheye lens. I also have a D800, but for some reason I found this one to be a better choice for a DX camera, because of that slightly narrow field of view for portraits, at least. But the thing is, I also have a 60mm micro lens, and that one stayed 90% of the time whenever I wanted to shoot portraits. Why? Because it's a autofocus lens. It will focus instantly on any subject. With this, you will have 90% of all the shots out of focus, even though you have the confirmation dot and everything. And if you take the time to focus, once you put the pictures on the computer, a lot of them will be out of focus, and that's because there's such a shallow depth of field that I just adjusted. Lately, I just left it home. And if you want a lens that looks great, feels great, my best analogy would be, think of it as a pearl or a jewel or something, because that's what it is. It's beautiful, and you will love to hold this thing and just to look at it, to gaze through this hole and admire such a beautifully crafted piece of a lens. But other than that, there is not much use for this lens. Maybe in the film days when they really needed a lot of light, but for today's digital cameras, I would strongly recommend getting 1.8G for 1/4 of the price of this lens. So yeah, I sold it, and that was my short and sweet review of this lens. Thank you very much.